You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Kevin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Nice to have you here with us in the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
How is it to be a doctor and have a business on the side?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the business that I have on the side is as my role as Chief Medical Officer of SeaStar Medical. I am also a practicing ICU physician, as you know, and it was an opportunity that sort of popped up about 3 years ago while I was in academia, and so it's not something I had planned. It's something that sort of presented itself, and it was an opportunity that I couldn't refuse.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Bring us back a little bit to your journey.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So I started in the military. I'm a West Point grad, and after graduating from college, I went directly to medical school, which they allow for about 2% of the graduates who are interested in medical school. And so I went to Georgetown, went through the HPSP scholarship, which is the military scholarship through the Army. And after I graduated, I started my residency in internal medicine at Fort Gordon, Georgia, which is Eisenhower Army Medical Center down there. And it was during my third year that 9/11 happened. And we all watched what was going on TV, and I happened to be in the ICU during that period. And as I was contemplating my future in terms of fellowship opportunities, that pretty much changed my mindset right away. We knew that the world was changing. We knew that we were going to go to war, and I wanted to be in the middle of it, contributing, not on the sidelines. And so critical care was what I chose. I did my critical care fellowship at Walter Reed. And then after my fellowship, and this was in 2003, if you remember back then, that was during the throes of Iraq and Afghanistan. And we were getting, casualty after casualty coming in, wave after wave into our ICUs. And then immediately after my fellowship, I got assigned to the burn unit in San Antonio. And that's where I began taking care of burn casualties from combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so that sort of got me towards thinking towards innovation, because too many times I sat by the bedside trying to take care of these young critically ill service members and had no other options. They were dying of multi-organ failure and shock. And I was helpless. And so that's when I decided standard of care was not sufficient. And that's sort of started my research career. Did some trials, first single center, then multi-center. That sort of evolved over time. I did a variety of different jobs throughout the Army and the Institute of Surgical Research, culminating in director of research. And then after that, I took some administrative jobs and leadership jobs, so chief of medicine. And then as I was planning on retiring in San Antonio, I was offered a position at the Uniformed Services University as the chair of medicine. I know this is a little bit of a long story, but I'm trying to make it as concise as possible. And so I took that job because it brought me back home. San Antonio was, we love San Antonio, but that's not where we grew up, my wife and I. And so we decided to come back home, Northern Virginia, the Washington, D.C. area, and spent my time as the chair of medicine. And that's when, about a year into the job, that's when COVID hit. And We had an opportunity to, that was a time, if you can imagine, that time I was attending in the ICU at Walter Reed, and I had exposure to technologies that were novel, that were not approved yet. And one of them was a blood purification therapy that could theoretically take out virus from the blood. And so I made the case for it with our nephrology department, and we treated the first 3 patients. That resulted in emergency use authorization, and then fast forward a couple of months later, that resulted in a $9 million grant, DoD grant, and I set up this program called the Purify program. And so I began having conversations with SeaStar because I wanted to include SeaStar as one of the arms of that platform trial, the Purify program. And so, and I had known about the selective cytopheretic device, which is our platform device, for over a decade. I had written about it in reviews, and had been a student of the technology, and was a big fan of David Humes, the inventor from University of Michigan. And so as we were having discussions, Eric, who was the CEO at the time and still is, obviously, and turned around and basically said, "Hey, have you ever thought about a role as a chief medical officer?" And for the first 10 times he asked the question, I said no. I was happy in my job. It was my dream. I was in a dream. Like, I can't even call it my dream job, because I never even imagined that job being a possibility. But it's as close as you can get to a dream job beyond a dream job. And so I had every intention of retiring in that position as a civilian, DA civilian, Department of Defense, Department of the Army and Defense civilian. And I, talked it over with my wife, and we sort of thought about the pros and cons, and thought about how this was perfectly aligned, the technology, with everything I had been doing up to this point, up to that point at that time. And at the end of the day, ended up being the right decision, because it was something that I was really, really passionate about. And so that made the decision easy, although it was an agonizing decision, because I loved my department, and I loved the internists in the DoD, Army, Navy, and Air Force, who I was charged with taking care of from an academic standpoint. And I loved that job, just because you're basically mentoring and doing research, but also that's your primary job, is mentoring the young docs as they sort of navigate their career in the military health system. So it was a difficult, tough, agonizing decision, but I decided to pursue my passion and just give this a shot. And so here I am 3 years later.
That's so cool. That seems like a very successful journey, I would say. And I'm sure you had a lot of rewards along the way by doing that. But what I want to kind of focus on is the back of the curtain aspect of failures and
Yeah.
things that didn't work out in your journey, and facts that are not known
Yeah.
by the public. And those things are usually the ones that shape the person that you are right now, and the things that you are doing, and your values. So give us an example of something like that.
Oh, Tudor, I have plenty of those. And so, I told you I graduated from Georgetown, and I did my residency in Georgia. My first choice was actually Walter Reed. I wanted to do my residency at Walter Reed. It just made the most sense. I was local, and my wife at that time was finishing her master's. And we weren't married yet. We were engaged to be married. And because I didn't get into my first choice, after we got married, 2 weeks later, we were living apart for a year. And so imagine having to tell your future wife, "Hey, I didn't get into the program that I thought I was going to get into, and we have to after we get married, I have to ship off to Fort Gordon." That was that was a very, very tough experience. But at the end of the day, looking back, it ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened. Why? Number one, it gave us, it gave me an opportunity personally and professionally to really focus on my work in Georgia. I was by myself, geographic bachelor. And on the weekends, I basically, just dove into the books. And I didn't have, stellar academic credentials that would have gotten me into Walter Reed. At least that was my mindset. And so I needed to catch up, and I did. And so I studied my ass off for the 3 years that I was a resident. After my residency, I had an opportunity to take on the chief medical resident role, chief of medical residence. That was an amazing experience. My program director at the time, Bill Brown, was a graduate of the Mayo Critical Care Program, and that's when we began having conversations about critical care. You probably know when you train in a small community hospital, residents pretty much run the hospital. They are alone in the middle of the night, and they're the ones that make the decisions. And just being thrown in the fire like that, and back then that hospital was very busy. The ICU was full a lot of times, and you were there by yourself. No fellows, with an intern basically managing the patients. And that really was a formative experience for me. And that gave me the motivation and the drive to want to pursue critical care. And I had the experience that allowed me to thrive in that environment once I got into critical care. You say that that sounds like a success story. Well, I have to tell you, when you pull back the curtain, the last 3 years has been a wild ride, and it's still going. We have a technology that is life-saving. And last week we presented a press release to the public that basically presented the first 20 cases treated with our first commercial device, which is in the pediatric population because that was approved through a humanitarian device exemption. But to get there, has been a roller coaster ride for me personally and for our company. And I say this, when I got into it, I knew it was going to be difficult. But looking back, I didn't realize how difficult. It has been the most stress that I've ever endured in my career. In fact, I've told a few of my colleagues, I think there are periods during the last few years, and most recently when we were trying to navigate NASDAQ and trying to stay listed, and there are all these things that are happening from a administrative and financial organizational standpoint. Regardless of what's happening on the medical side, if the business side is vulnerable, then the technology is not going to make it to market. And so we were facing delisting as a company because we didn't meet the market cap requirements. And so there was a period where it was a strong possibility that we were gonna be taken off NASDAQ. By the way, our NASDAQ ticker symbol is ICU. Very forward thinking by our CEO who picked that ticker symbol. But regardless, I have during that period I had more stress during that period than I had during my time when I was in Baghdad getting rocketed and mortared while taking care of patients. That's the level of stress that I have been through, and that wasn't the first time. The first time was when It was within like 8 months of us sort of becoming public. We were waiting on a humanitarian device exemption approval by the FDA, and they didn't give it to us. They had a list of 20, 30 things that they wanted us to fix. And so we ended up fixing those things, finally got an approval. But leading up to that approval, that win, was all this pain and suffering and hard work to try to get us over this hill. And all along the way, we thought, oh my gosh, this could fail at any time. And so this is a high risk environment where things can turn in a snap and not go your way, regardless of whether or not you have a groundbreaking technology. Right now, our focus is on the pivotal trial in adults. I told you that we have a humanitarian device exemption in kids, and we qualify for that because it's a smaller population, orphan disease, and the FDA has a pathway for devices to address needs and gaps in the smaller populations. For adults, we're going through a traditional PMA, and so we need to prove that it works. The preliminary data suggests that it does, but so we're in the middle of a pivotal trial. I can't give you exactly the numbers because that's that's not public information yet. I think the last time we put it out, it was we were 119 patients for a 200 patient study. We have an interim analysis coming up, and so there are all these milestones that we're shooting for. We're trying to finish the 200 patient study by the end of the year, and I hope that is able to get us in a position where we are able to survive and we have enough runway to do so. And so if we are able to get to that finish line, finish the study and have a positive study, then I will count that as success. Right now, I'm still in this very, very challenging journey, and we're doing our best to stay alive.
Well, yes, obviously, I'm sure you will have a success ending with this, but what I think what's most important here is the journey that you're going through, and that's a success by itself because
Yeah.
sometimes it's those little steps that you need to go through in life to make it happen, and each victory is a success.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is it's the experience that has really been enriching for me personally and professionally. And regardless of what happens, I will
They couldn't they
remember
couldn't
this
find
time
they
fondly.
couldn't find anybody better than you because I think your experience in a combat ICU training, it's very fitting, I would say, for this type of business. You kind of have to keep that product alive and go through all the critical care points that you need to do to make it happen. But I want to go back a little bit on your journey here, mostly the transition from your clinical aspect to the business aspect of it, because I think it's important for people to know what kind of mindset did you have to change in yourself to go from a clinical academic position to a chief medical officer of a new product that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And, it might succeed, it might not.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. Um, what happened in your mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to say that I went from a clinical, position, 100% clinical position, straight to a CMO position is probably like, I think there's more to it than that. And the reason I say this is because I have a ton of experience organizing groups of people, my colleagues specifically, multiple institutions, rallying them for the cause of completing a clinical trial. That is something that I've done a few times in my career, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. The whole entire Purify program was something like what I'm doing now, which is basically rallying 10 institutions to some of the top institutions in the country to participate in a trial, enroll patients, motivating them to do that, getting them on board, getting them to believe in the technology, in the study, and the outcome enough that uh, they know that it's potentially a technology that could change practice. And
Well,
that,
yeah, you need to have the vision,
yeah, exactly.
and you have the vision, right? Because that's your leadership skill right now, to have that kind of vision that nobody can see from above
Right.
what the success looks like.
Yeah, and talking to my colleagues and the other institutions, the site PIs and others, and rallying, them to sort of contribute and participate is so enjoyable because they see the same vision. They all know that the standard of care is not enough. And so being able to communicate that vision and share that vision with others and try to do something about it as clinicians and as academics and as researchers is very powerful and empowering. And I really enjoy that because, these are clinicians like me and researchers like me who are out there who have the same problems that they're encountering, who are at the bedside with patients who are dying that they feel powerless to help. And so, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's what I do, what I've been doing, and so that aspect of my job is something that I feel like I've been training for my entire career. So it's that's not the part that's stressful. I feel like that's gonna uh, go through its revolution and its evolution and come to a conclusion. What's stressful is the uncertainty of the business, and as a company, we're considered a microcap, and I call this microcap hell because to a certain degree you're living paycheck to paycheck, and so we have investors, myself included. I'm a big investor in the company because every spare change I have, I'm pouring into the company because I believe in it so much. And so, I don't want to let them down. I have family members who have invested. I have friends who have invested. So I don't want to let them
Yeah,
down. That is stress.
this is a very interesting subject, I would say, because
Yeah,
the concept of a medical professional going into a startup, a medical startup, involves not only a different mindset, but also kind of a suicide mission, I would say,
yeah,
because you don't have a choice.
yeah,
You have to do it right.
yeah,
And the moment you start putting your money and your time and your effort and your stress and your family members too,
yeah.
it becomes like something do or die, you
It
know.
is. Yeah,
Um,
it
and
sure is.
unfortunately, statistically, those things don't necessarily succeed on a national level or
Right,
international level.
right.
Um, what is the purpose here? What's your exit strategy on this?
So yeah, so my goal is to try to bring this to market, this technology to market, and right now I'm 100% focused on that and that alone. And but as you said earlier, all along the way, in the back of my mind, I know that I'm learning and I'm growing as a professional. And so what I'm learning and the experience I'm going through, I know in the deep in my heart that it's priceless. And so, yes, this is do or die. Yes, um, I want every fiber of my body is saying we need this to succeed. I mean,
Yeah.
there's failure is not an option, and so that's the mentality that I'm going in this, into this with, and everybody on my team in the company, they feel the same way. Um,
Yeah,
And so that's
you
very,
obviously,
yeah, it's
yeah, you
great.
have to have that kind of
Yeah,
mentality, because
yeah,
you know, if you don't believe and you're not passionate enough more
yeah,
than anything in the world,
yeah.
this is not going to succeed.
Yeah, but
Um,
I have a growth mindset. You know, every experience that you go through in life is a lesson, and uh, whether we succeed or don't succeed, I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and you know, I can't think about failure because that's not an option for me. This has to succeed because lives are at stake. And we've put a ton of resources into this. I've put my own heart, sweat, and tears into this. Um, I don't want to let my medical hero, Dr. David Humes, down either. He's still involved with the company, but he's the inventor, and I don't want to let him down. I took this job only after talking to him and saying, "Hey, this is all teed up. We're at the 10-yard line. You just need to finish this trial, and we're going to get into the end zone." And I'm like, I can do that. And so I took the challenge. Yes, it seems like a suicide mission, and if you were betting at Las Vegas, this is probably not a good bet. But so far so good, and we're last week was a great milestone for us because we were able to share with the community and the public that this device works. It works in kids. We had a 25% mortality or 75% survival in the first 20 patients, and all of them should have died. So, and we saved 3 out of the 4 of those kids. And these are kids who are critically ill, who were basically had gotten every rescue therapy that's on the market, and then they added the selective cytopheretic device, and now they're alive because of this device. And so those kinds of little tiny wins, I know 20 patients is not a lot, but those wins give us a ton of energy. And you talk about purpose, that gives us purpose because we know why we're doing what we're doing, and we know why we're going through all this stress and trying to keep the business alive and so on and so forth. It's for those patients. And at the end of the day, multiply that by 1,000 when we get this, device approved in adults. That's the feeling that we're going to have, and that's the feeling that motivates us.
yeah, I don't doubt that, because the passion you have and the passion that you exude, you're very contagious, I would say. But as anything in this world, nothing can be done without money.
Yeah.
So let's talk a
About
little
that.
bit about what the challenges are to make this happen, because I can only imagine a medical startup
Yeah.
um, consuming that kind of money left and right.
Yeah, the medical startups have a very similar story. They got to raise a ton of cash in order to get to the point where they're cash flow positive. We've begun commercialization, but we're not revenue positive yet, and so we still have a runway that we talk about. The only little bit of a difference is that we're a public company, and so as a public company, the way you raise cash is by issuing shares. There are other ways that we've sort of navigated DoD grants and so on and so forth. But we're burning over $1 million of cash a month just to operate. To do the clinical trial, to pay our 19 employees. That's not a lot of employees, but it's still over $1 million to do some background R&D work, and so $1 million a month. Think about that. You need $12 million a year. And so,
Just to survive.
yeah, just to survive. And so we got to the point 2 years ago where we had like $13,000 in the bank account, and we got saved because we did a raise. But here's the catch. Every time we do a big raise, we have to issue shares. And when we issue shares, we dilute the existing shareholders. myself included. So that's the last thing we want to do. So it's a race against time to become a revenue positive company for us. And so, how long is that going to take? I don't know. It all depends on how sick these kids are. But all it takes is one big wave of illness, and people will start purchasing the device to treat and rescue sick children. But that's just to survive. Our commercial strategy is not anchored on the tiny pediatric market. The pediatric market is a great proof of concept for us. It's almost like a pilot program just to show the market that this device works, number one, and this device can create revenue.
Mhm.
And it's weird for me as a physician to talk about revenue and commercialization. I have to tell you, and a lot of people, jokingly say, "Oh, you're going to the dark side." Well, let me tell you, like, if you're trying to bring a life-saving technology to market, it'll never see the light of day if it's not commercially viable and sustainable. The company's not sustainable. So you got to have commercial success. What does that mean? You got to have demand, and you got to have people purchase product
Mhm.
and use your product over and over and over again. And so until we get to that point where we can sustain our own company with the revenue that we bring in from the sales of our product, we're going to be raising money and we're going to be diluting. And that's, for me, it's heartbreaking because every time we do it, we're diluting my shares. So it's interesting if you look at the cap table for like who owns each percentage of the company. Guess what? Our company right now, it's publicly owned. Not one big institution owns like a huge chunk of the business. It's basically mostly people like you and me, retail investors, some institutions obviously, but it's not like one person like Elon Musk owns 20% of the company. It's not like that at all. It's you know out of like all the board members and all the officers in the company, we own less than like 3% of the company. So this is truly a company that's owned by the public. It's not one or two individuals. And even if we do have like $100 trillion exit, we're only getting a tiny, tiny percentage because we only own a little bit of the company. However, we all believe in the technology. Our true north is not financial like success. Our true north is we want to bring this technology to market, and hopefully we'll be a commercially successful company so that we're able to do it and do it well. And so that's the
Yeah.
goal.
What would you change if you go back to yourself when you started this?
I think I think ignorance is bliss, and I feel like it's. I don't think I would change a thing because I didn't know what I was getting myself into truly in the ride I was about to take, but I knew that the ends, were the struggle that we were about to go through, and knew we were going to go through some struggles and challenges and so on and so forth. I knew that was going to be worth it, but I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I mean, I am, like I said, it has been a very, very tough road, but I think it's going to be worth it. And for me, that the tougher something is, the more worthwhile it is doing, because otherwise everybody would be doing it. So I feel like it's been a great journey. I wouldn't change a thing. There are certain periods where I feel like you know. Of course, you're going to make not all the best decisions sometimes. And starting out, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get in this position, and a lot of they're not career serial entrepreneurs. Some of them are doing it for the first time, and so they're going to make mistakes. They're going to make the wrong calls, and they're going to stumble a little bit, and that's going to piss a lot of people off, especially as a public company. I think the attitude I have is every time you that happens and you make the wrong decision or make the wrong call, you just hope that the market forgives, and you just learn from it, and keep rolling towards your ultimate goal. Try to not make the mistakes again, and just keep improving, and learn from every single experience that you go through, so that you just become better and better and better. And after a while, it becomes a little bit smoother. And even the most seasoned entrepreneurs I know go through this stuff. And I think what I've learned over time is I've learned to develop a callus. And that's whenever you get injured or constantly battered, after a while you become numb to the pain. And so I've learned to sort of take a lot of that stress and process it a different way. And it doesn't affect me personally as much. And so that's how I try to manage it. But yeah, I don't think I would change a thing, because to go back and say, oh, maybe you shouldn't have done this, that's completely not true. Maybe I would have warned me a little bit more, but I don't think I would have changed a thing. This has been an incredible journey, and worthwhile, and I know it's going to end well no matter what happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. How can people get in touch with you, know more about the product, what you guys doing? And
SeaStar Medical has a website, and everything you want to know and learn is on that website. We're also listed on NASDAQ, so if you put in the ticker symbol ICU, there'll be press releases, links to our website. I'm pretty active on Twitter. Chung K1031 is my Twitter handle, or X. And we used to have a very vibrant medical Twitter community. And I feel like there's some remnants of it that still exists, and so I stay on it. But right now it's more like every time I post, it's all the investors who comment. And so I get a lot of that, and so my Twitter account is evolving from a medical sort of leadership and medical knowledge sort of account to now like an entrepreneur and a public company account. So I'm okay with that. But that's how you get in touch with me, and I'd love to interact with your audience and anybody who has any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Kevin. I wish you much more success, and I'm sure you're gonna maybe give me another interview later on during the years with your successful enterprise.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you, Tudor, and appreciate the opportunity.
Are you a busy medical professional striving to excel in life and work? Stellar Success Podcast brings you the habits and insights of top leaders in medicine and beyond. Discover strategies for balance, growth, and fulfillment in every episode. Follow us on Instagram at Stellar Success Podcast for daily inspiration. Start your journey to success today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel now.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.